There's been a lot of changes I've been implementing into my reselling business lately. In today's video, I want to share 3 of the biggest ones, share why I made them and how it's going so far. But first, I want to go over some of the best and the worst sales from the month of August and break down the total sales numbers for the month. Let's kick things off with 5 items that sold for the most money. Starting off, the first one is actually a Mercari sale, and it was these vintage Y2K Gerbo baggy jeans. This was my first high price jean sale since I started selling jeans again, and also my first Mercari sale since I started listing more consistently on the platform. Sales are always going to be slow when you barely start listing on a platform, so this sale made me want to keep going. But also, this is a Bolo, you should know, Gerbo baggy jeans. They sold for $65. My final earnings after fees was $57.71, and they sold in just 2 days. The next high price sale happened on Poshmark, and it was these, I don't even know how to say this brand, Scares maybe, Spike golf shoes. These sold for $60. My final earnings was $54.40, and they sold in just 4 days. This was my first time picking up this golf shoe brand. I actually vlogged this day that I picked these up. I will link that video if you want to see what else I found that day. These were priced pretty high, as you will see in that video. I think the final price after the half off discount was about $25, maybe $27. But look at these things. They looked like new. When I checked comps, I saw that they sold for a high dollar and also very fast. So I just went for it, and now I'm on the lookout for this brand every time I go to the men's shoe section. This next brand is also new to me. It was the first time I picked it up too. It was these Portland Patina Mary Jane pumps. They sold on Poshmark for $72. My final earnings was $57.60, and they took just 6 days to sell. This was actually confusing to me because the tag on the shoe said patina, but when I researched it online, people were listing it under the brand name Portland Leather Goods. I asked ChatGPT about it, and here's what it said. Patina is the finishing technique of the leather. Portland Leather is the brand, and patina is a line within that brand that features that finishing to the leather on their shoes. So I put both of those things in my title and in my description. Portland Leather and the word patina. It got decent likes on Poshmark, and it sold for a high amount, so this is also another Bolo that I will be on the lookout for. The next high sale also happened on Poshmark, and it was these Dr. Martens Combat Grunge boots. They sold for $95. My final earnings was $76, and they were listed for just 5 days before they sold. These were actually behind the counter when I was checking out my shoes. I asked the cashier to let me see the shoes just so that I can check out the condition and the price. It turned out they were priced at $55. Half off, I'd have to pay $27.50. Earlier that day in that same store, I had already comped some other Doc Marten platform boots. They were very similar, but the platform was a bit lower and they were a different color. They were the same price though, so I told her, nah, never mind. I just thought maybe they're gonna be the same as the other ones that I'd seen just minutes ago. While she scanned the rest of my shoes, I decided to comp these exact boots in the exact color and the exact condition because they are like new, and I saw a lot better comps. So in the end, I told the cashier, you know what, go ahead and add those two. 2 things about that. 1, I'm very glad I changed my mind. And 2, comps vary piece by piece. They're going to go up and down depending on size, on color, on condition, on exact style, and even on season. Many things go into it is what I'm learning. This next sale is the highest and also the one that took the longest to sell on this list. It was these Demonia Goth Steel Toe Combat boots. They sold for $105. My final earnings was $89.96, and they were listed for a total of 82 days. So longer than all the other ones, but still not bad. Still under the 90-day that I prefer. But I actually picked these up when I was being a little bit more bold with my pickups than I'm being now. These I did check comps, and I used ChatGPT actually. I made a whole vlog about it, which I will also link for you. That day I checked all of my comps with ChatGPT, which I still do from time to time. The only problem with that is that it's way too slow in certain stores. So that's why I'm starting to lean more on eBay's research tool instead. I think that day GPT told me it wasn't a good idea, if I remember correctly. I also checked comps on the platforms myself just to see if I could push these and make them work. In the end, I do remember it was iffy whether I could make them work or not. I paid like $30 for them. My end profit after everything was $70. So that risk actually paid off. Doesn't always work that way, but in this case it did. Now let's move on to some items that did not sell for that much. First up, we have a Poshmark sale. It was these Jessica Simpson high heels. These sold for $15. My final earnings was $12, and these took a long time to sell, 402 days. What does really well most of the time is going to be their chunkier shoes, retro looking shoes, pin-up style. I think I got these for $1, so it's not a huge loss, but I did have to relist them a few times to get them moving. I added the words Southwestern and boho to the title this last time, and it sold within a few hours after relisting it with those keywords, so it could have been that I had a bad title all along. This next sale happened on eBay, and it was these Brighton heeled dressy mules. They sold for $15. My final earnings after all of the fees was $11.28, and these took 165 days, not as much as the previous sale, but still a very long time. In my opinion, this brand, Brighton, had a big fall off. I used to pick up their belts, their bags, and their shoes because they all did really well for me. Now, not so much. I mean, I don't pick up bags and belts anymore, but when it comes to shoes, most of the time they're sitting for a very long time. So now I'm passing them. I think what may still be worth it in this brand are boots. Stores should start putting those out now that we're moving into the cold weather. So if I come across them, I may check those out. Next, we have a sale on Depop. There were these Crocs round toe comfort ballet flats, also sold for $15, just like the previous two. But for these, my final earnings was $13.74, and these were also listed for a long time, 460 days. These shoes right here are the definition of a Croc style that does not sell well. They're plain and they're flat style. Now, if you find the complete opposite of that, something that is unique, that has awesome qualities, and that is a lot chunkier, then you have something on your hands that has the potential to sell for top dollar and a lot quicker too. Next up, we have a Poshmark sale, and it was these Nike logo jogger pants. They sold for $13. I hardly ever offer shipping discounts, but for this one I did, and so my final earnings was $7.73, and they were listed for 34 days. When I first started picking up jeans again, I made several mistakes. One is that I started looking at the active wear too, when in my mind I only wanted to start with strictly jeans. I didn't research enough before going to the store. That was mistake number 2. And then mistake number 3 is that I didn't check comps on most things. I think just because I was used to it when it came to shoes, I thought that I could do the same with the activewear. Just look at things and decide whether it was good or not based on my own knowledge and what I thought in my head of what was trending and what wasn't. But clearly I was very wrong, because now I have a stack of leggings, pants, and and jeans that I foresee sitting for me for a long time. So that's why I accepted this $13 offer to at least make my money back, and that is my strategy to move those items that I picked up my very first time I started sourcing clothing again, is that I'm just going to accept very low offers, get that stuff moving, and then make wiser choices moving forward. The last low price sale we have here is on eBay, and it was these Title School flat sandals. They sold for $12 and my final earnings was $10.71. Summer sandals like this that are super simple and lightweight don't do well at all in most brands, unless it's something like Tory Burch. Those tend to do well, but these I should have left behind. I think what got me with these is that they had the skull graphics. I thought that was enough to get them sold, but it was a very faint graphic. You could hardly see it at all, so that did nothing for them. Most of those items I just shared sold for low amounts and took a long time to sell, but luckily I did have lots of sales that sold a lot faster. And here are 5 of the top ones. Starting off on Poshmark, we have these Rome fuzzy platform slides. They sold for $55. My final earnings was $44, and they sold in just 3 days. I don't find this brand that much, but every time I do and I list it, it sells within a handful of days, and it sells for high dollars too. This is a brand that I really don't have to look up comps for because I feel pretty confident that it's gonna perform well. Same with this next brand, Pleaser. These were their Kiss thigh-high patent leather boots. They sold on Depop for $50. My final earnings was $47.50, and they sold in just 2 days. I've been picking up this brand for years. All of their shoes I've ever picked up have done well. Even the more simple pumps, those will sit for just a little bit longer, but not that long, and they will sell for a little bit lower too, but still worth it if you're able to find them at a good price. But it is these chunkier, more exotic shoes like these that are going to get you top dollar. But as I said, I picked them all up as long as I find them at good prices. The next sale was on eBay, and it was these Hunter Lonnie platform rain boots. They sold for $79.99. I think she used a coupon, and so my final earnings was $50, and these sold in just 1 day. This is another shoe that I found behind the counter once I was checking out. I spotted them. I told the lady to let me see them. They were priced at $25, but for these I didn't have time to do comps because she was already done checking out my shoes, and I didn't want to hold up the line or go back to the end of the line, so I had to make a swift decision in that moment. Most Hunter boots sell well for me, and when they're different like these, they sell even better. These had the block heel. You hardly ever see rubber rain boots in this style. Fall was on the way too, so I just went with it and it worked out. This next sale was a Mercari sale, my second sale there after coming back to the platform. It was these Spanx wide leg jeans. They sold for $44.20, and my final earnings was $38.99. They sold in just 1 day. One thing I like about Mercari is that their fees are very low. I don't even know exactly what they are now. I haven't looked it up, and I haven't calculated either. I just see my earnings and I see that they don't take out that much. In those bad buys, those stack of jeans and leggings that are sitting for me, there are a handful of Spanx skinny pants and jeans. I picked up a bunch the first time I went sourcing for clothing again. They were super cheap, like $3 to $4, and in my head I thought Spanx was still a brand that was popping off, but apparently not, especially in the skinny and leggings and jeggings. Those I'm passing right by, but when I saw these wide leg ones, they stopped me in my tracks, because what I've learned so far is that baggy and wide leg jeans are the hottest things right now. These were priced maybe at $5 at the thrift store, so this was an excellent flip. And lastly, for a fast sale, we have these Vivo barefoot athletic sneakers. They sold for $60 on Poshmark, and my final earnings was $48. These were listed for 0 days. They sold the same day that I listed them. Like Pleaser, and like Rome. Vival barefoot, I don't find that often, but every time I do, I know that I have a high price and a fast sale on my hands. I don't have to check comps on those because I know they will sell. And the great thing about those is that the thrift stores never price them up. That's what I like to call hidden gold. They're the brands that sell quick and for a good price on the reselling marketplace, but the thrift stores don't know the value, so they don't mark it up, leaving us with plenty of room for profit. Just like I had fast selling items, I had plenty of slow moving ones too. So let's talk about 5 of them so that you can avoid picking them up. These first ones were on eBay, and it was these Ariat clog shoes. They sold for $24 for me. The final earnings was $18.12, and they took 420 days. The more we move on into this list, the higher these days listed is going to get, just so you know. I bought these for $1, and I always go back and forth with these kind of sales. Is it good or is it bad? It's like I gave someone $1 plus tax for them to return $18 back to me in a little bit over a year. If I had paid more like $7 or $10 for these shoes, then that would not be okay. But $1, I don't know. You let me know in the comments, what's your opinion on that? Is this a bad business move or not? This next one was a bad one, no matter how you slice it. It was the Shut square toe wrap heeled sandals. They sold for $28. Final earnings was $22.40, and these were listed for 242 days. What made these so bad is that they sold twice and they were returned back to me. And returns do happen often with this brand for some reason. I think maybe their sizing is off. I still will risk it once in a while when I find a very good style by them, but for the most part, I'm skipping this brand because most styles take way too long to sell, and I have too many returns with it. The next one was also a very bad buy. It was these Jambu wingtip brogue dress shoes for men. They sold for $32. They used a coupon, so that left me with earnings of $20.54, and these were listed for 492 days. These I did pick up just based on style. I thought it had enough unique features to do okay. They had the wingtip and the brogue, and they were in like new condition. I do go by average cost of goods, so I don't know the exact amount I paid for each item, but I kind of remember it was about $10, and that kind of ROI I'm not okay with. Paying $10 to get back $20 over a year later, that's a fast way to go out of business. So that is why, as we'll talk about later, I'm trying to check comps more often now. The next sale happened on Poshmark, and it was these Clark's chunky block heel ankle booties. These sold for $21.67. They sold in a bundle. The final earnings for it was $17.34, and oh my god, these took 526 days to sell. I used to be able to sell almost any Clark shoes. They just flipped consistently for me, but now they've stopped. I have like 20 pairs in my closet that have been sitting for a while, and I still do pick them up sometimes, but only after checking comps and confirming sell-through rate as best as I can. When I am checking comps, I will tell you this, oftentimes what I see is that they have a high sell-through rate when they are new in box, but once you put that used condition filter on, the sell-through rate goes way down. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe a lot of people are buying it wholesale and reselling it that way, and that's what has caused this brand to go down a bit for me. That's a theory I have. The next slow moving item also was on Poshmark, and it was these Blondo waterproof ankle booties. The same deal with these Blondo boots. These simple style black boots was a real good flip for me in the past. When I saw it at the store, I bought it because I knew they would sell. They always did, and then they stopped. And that's the main lesson with all of these sales in the slow category list. Even things that do well for you right now, it's a good idea to recheck comps and check out the performance of the brand and the style at least once in a while, just to see where it's headed. So all of the shoes that I talked about earlier that I say I don't check comps, I just get it because they sell real quick for me, those I need to try to remember to check comps at least every few months just to make make sure that the sell-through rate is headed in the right direction, because if it starts to decline and I don't take note of it and I just keep buying it, I'm going to be stuck with items for a very long time, like I am now with these Blondo boots and the Clark boots too. Now let's move on to the total sales numbers for the month. In August, I made a total of $5,529, and that's across all 4 platforms on eBay, Poshmark, Depop, and Mercari. After all of those platforms took out their fees, their listing, shipping, and promo fees, I was left with $3,771. From there, I have to deduct my cost of goods. So what I paid for all of the items that sold in the month of August was $1,244. After deducting that, that leaves me with a final take-home profit of $2,527. That month actually ended up being better than I thought it would be. In the past few months, I was struggling a lot to stay consistent with my reselling business. I wasn't sourcing as much, and when I did go out sourcing, I wasn't finding as many shoes as I used to, which is one of the reasons why I started to add jeans. On top of that, we were in the middle of summer slowdown, and since I wasn't sourcing as much, I wasn't listing a lot either, so summer slowdown hit me harder than it ever had before. There was just so many things going on, it was hard for me to focus. Motivation was down as well, but now things are a lot better and I'm focused on just ending the year as strong as possible. I'm back on the horse, back to my regular routines, listing daily, relisting every day too, and just trying out different marketing strategies, sourcing at different places, and doing anything I can to revive my business. And I see all of that hard work starting to pay off. Now let's talk about the inventory breakdown. So what went into making those sales numbers? In August, I listed a total of 208 items. That's an average of about 6 to 7 listings every day. The total items sold was 162. When you average that out, that's about 5 sales every day, which is not bad at all. The average selling price for all of those items was $34.13, and I paid an average of $7.68 for the items that I bought that sold in the month of August. And then my final average profit for each item was $15.60. $15.60 is like my baseline average profit. That's what it's always been. Sometimes it goes up just slightly, especially during the winter. But if I could keep it at that $15.60, I am good with that. I just need to manage to sell more items to up my total income for the month. Before August, I was listing about 80 to 100 new items a month, which is very low for me compared to what I used to do. I used to be around the 200 item mark like I was in August. But as I said, I wasn't being consistent, and at first my sales were keeping up even though I wasn't listing that much. My older inventory was selling. I was dropping prices, running sales, sending aggressive offers, participating in closet clear out on Poshmark, and doing so many other things to keep sales going. And at first all of that did help, but eventually my lack of input into my reselling business started to show and my numbers started to go down. My 90-day total on eBay and my balance on Poshmark and Depop was shockingly low. But now, thankfully, I was able to get back to baseline pretty quickly by listing a lot more. If I can maintain my 200 new listings a month quota or even surpass it, I feel like I'm going to be in a good spot next month. Now let's break down all of these sales by platform so you can see how each one performed. On Poshmark, I sold a total of 90 items, and that was for a total of $2,585. On eBay, I sold a total of 43 items, and that was for a total of $1,854. On Depop, I sold 25 items, and that was for $913. And then on Mercari, I sold a whopping 4 items for a total of $175. So again, all of those numbers for each of the platforms is pretty much baseline. That's usually what I would do before I fell off, before I stopped listing listing as much, except for Mercari. Mercari is new. I just started listing there again, and actually I'm going to go ahead and tell you all about it. Let's go ahead and talk about the 3 big changes I've been making in my business. As I said, that first one is that I started listing on Mercari again. And actually I did start and stop a few times earlier in the year. I would list 1 to 2 days there. I wouldn't see any traction, so then I would stop. Also, Mercari seemed so chaotic earlier in the year. They were making a ton of changes and then they would revert those. It just seems like they weren't organized and they didn't have their systems in place. Now it seems a little bit more settled. So in the beginning of August, I decided to go ahead and give Mercari a fair shot, because I know from past experience, when you start cross-posting your items to a new platform, you cannot just list items every day for a week or even a couple of weeks and expect to see results. Not even a month is enough to see real results. You have to try out a platform at least for a couple of months. I think 3 is even better. Once you're listing consistently on that platform for at least that amount of time, then you'll be able to see if it actually works for you or not. That's what I did when I started listing on Depop and on eBay as well. At first, things were very slow the first few months, but eventually I started seeing enough momentum over time. So I'm sure that if Mercari is going to work for me, it's going to take some time. I've been cross-posting over 10 new items every day. It's always been easy with List Perfectly, the cross lister that I use. If you want to see a tutorial on it, I will leave a link for you on the screen and also in the description. But all I have to do is click a few buttons. Once it cross-posts everything over to Mercari, the description is pretty much all filled out. Thanks to AI, there's not that many drop-down menus that I have to fill out. Most of the time, I'm just scrolling down to the bottom of the page and clicking list. I've timed myself before and it takes me about 5 minutes to get 10 listings over to Mercari. Also, when I'm doing my daily relisting, I'm listing those to Mercari as well. And that seems to be working. I did just make only 3 sales in August, but right now it's September 7th and I've already made 4 sales there. So I think September is going to be a lot better for me in sales when it comes to the Mercari platform. I'll let you know how it goes next month. Okay, let's talk about the second change I made, and as you may already know from my past videos, and I've been mentioning it throughout this whole video too, I started selling jeans again. If you don't know, I started reselling towards the end of 2018, and at that time I was basically an everything reseller, at least everything in fashion. I listed all sorts of clothing in men's, women's, kids, all sorts of accessories, anything I found at the thrift store that was fashion that I could flip for a profit, I would. Eventually though, I realized that shoes was what left me the most profit. It's what I found the most around the thrift stores in my area, and it's what I enjoyed listing and reselling the most too. When I got pregnant with my 4th kid, who is now 2.5, things got chaotic for me. That was a hard pregnancy. I had to be back home early to pick up my kids from school too. Things just got busy and chaotic in my life, so I needed to simplify my reselling business if I wanted to keep doing it. And so that's when I decided to focus on selling shoes only, and that worked out really well for me. I loved it from the beginning. I loved how simple it was to only go inside a store, just look at shoes, walk out, and on to the next. I would make it back home very early, and also my kids started picking up a lot more of the reselling tasks for me, and it was so much easier to teach them only shoes, how to photograph shoes, list shoes, pack shoes. We only inventory shoes. It just made everything a lot more simple and efficient too. There are many reasons why I decided to add clothing again into my business, but one of the main ones is that I stopped finding those high dollar shoes that I used to find that would sustain my business. In the past, I would find tons of Western boots, men and women. Those would flip for hundreds, and that's what would make my sales numbers be high for the month. Nowadays, I'm not finding as many Western boots, and even during the winter, this past winter, I wasn't finding that many UGG boots that I used to find and flip for high dollars and other types type of winter boots. I don't know if the thrift stores are taking those items and selling them somewhere else, but even the ones they do keep in store, oftentimes they're way overpriced. That's probably another thing that has affected me too. Not all the brands I pick up are priced up now, but many of them are. On top of that, the bread and butter brands that I would sell, like Vince Camuto, Franco Sardo, Clark's, all of those started slowing down for me too. I used to be able to go inside stores and just pick up anything that looked good by those brands, come home, photograph them, list them, and they would flip in a few weeks, maybe up to a month. Some would take a little bit longer, but for the most part, they were flipping consistently for me, and over time they have slowed down a whole bunch. So that wasn't reliable for me anymore either. I still do pick up those brands, but only certain styles are doing well now. So that's one of the main reasons I decided to add jeans into my business, just so that I'm able to find more inventory, and on top of that, just to make reselling exciting for me again. So far, selling jeans is going kind of okay for me. It was a rough start because I was out of the clothing game for so long. It was like relearning reselling all over again, but I am starting to see a little bit of traction with jeans. I'm starting to have repeat sales, like the same item in the same style selling for me. Those are the best kind of sales because then I am more confident picking it up when I go to the store because it's sold for me, so I can rely on my own comps from my own store. I'm also starting to recognize just by looking at items or feeling the fabric and material whether it's good or not, whether it's high quality or just cheap stuff. It's kind of like a sixth sense you build as a reseller once you do it long enough. I have that when it comes to shoes, but when it comes to jeans, it's taking a little bit for me to build that back up again. But I expect that part of the business to continue to do even better as we move closer to fall and winter, when jeans and pants sell a lot more. Third change that I'm making to my business is that I'm focusing more on sell-through rate and buying things more based on sell-through rate versus just focusing on style and that's it. In the past, that's how I would source, mostly just based on style, past experience, and just a whole bunch of research that I would do. I would watch fashion trend videos, read a lot of blogs, and also on Poshmark, I would research the heck out of their site just to see what was trending, what was selling the most and the fastest. I do have a video where I show how I do that I can link for you if you want to learn. I still do that, but on top of it, I'm also checking comps when I'm at the store, because the old way that I was doing it was leaving me with too much stale inventory. As I told you, all of those bread and butter brands slowed down for me, so then I was left with a bunch of items that weren't selling and just a lot of bad buys. I've been purging all of that old inventory. I've been running massive sales across all of my platforms, sending very low offers just to get all of that old inventory out of here. And I also did take some of the oldest ones to Plato's Closet. They bought a bunch of it. So now that I have a cleaner slate moving forward, I want to make sure that every item I put in here has a high chance to sell within 3 to 4 months. The main thing that pushed me to make this change was when I started sourcing jeans, because I did not know what the heck I was doing. I didn't know what styles sold well, what brands were doing good right now, so I had to rely more on comps to make better sourcing decisions. And the reason I always avoided making this a large part of my business was because I just hated checking comps. It was cumbersome, time consuming. As I said, I had to do my sourcing very quickly and come back home to be here on time when my kids got home. But now that I'm doing it more often, I'm really starting to see the benefits of it. There's a huge difference when it comes to sourcing just based on style versus actually taking each item and running it through the eBay research tool to see exactly how it's doing online. It feels so good to list items and then see them sell that same day or within a few days instead of months and months. Overall, it's just a lot less gambling, and now when I go into the store, even though I walk out with a lot less, I walk out with a lot more confidence that my money isn't going to be sitting there for too long. In the future, I'll probably have to check comps a lot less than I do now, especially as I learn more about clothing again. And the more that I check comps, the more I will just automatically know which ones have a high sell-through rate and a low sell-through rate. But I do want to give this method of sourcing a full trial run to see if it's going to work out for me long term or not. In the comments down below, let me know how your reselling business is doing. Are you starting to see those fall sales come in? I sure am. I'm starting to sell a lot more boots as time goes on. I thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next one.